Most serial killers don't make any effort to involve the media or investigators. They're very secretive. They don't want attention. They almost want their crimes to go unnoticed. But the idea of committing a crime and then calling up the police and bragging about it, that's a whole nother level of terror.
A man who wore a medieval-style executioner's hood.
Who has baffled the police and baffled the media.
He seems to crave publicity. He sent letters and cryptograms to newspapers and the police.
Subject stated, I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. I did it.
Here we are, 50 years after the first Zodiac killing. In today's world of forensics, old cases are being solved. Who doesn't want to know how it turns out?
From the creators of Atlanta Monster comes Season 2. This is Monster, the Zodiac Killer. Listen and subscribe at Apple Podcasts or on the iHeartRadio app.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going okay. A guy just called me and said we're in a fight against God and Satan and demonic entities, and it was just insane.
After a long week of writing an investigation, I'm very ready to get home. And as per usual in the Ozarks, I have no cell reception. But this time, when I get back into range, my phone has 100 missed calls and text messages. One of them is Chris's sister.
So here's what happened. I hear that Chris has been arrested. It turns out that he was arrested for making terroristic threats and for burglary. That's what I hear.
Even though I don't think Chris had anything to do with the murder of Rebecca, he is not doing himself any favors by visiting her ex-boyfriend's house.
Chris's kids are getting texts, according to the sister, saying that, your dad's a killer, and it's just awful. This is an awful situation.
In September of 2004, 22-year-old Rebecca Gould was brutally murdered in a remote area of the Arkansas Ozarks. 14 years later, her killer is still out there. I've come back to Mountain View with one mission: to get justice for Rebecca. I'm Catherine Townsend, and this is Hell and Gone.
The story we heard from the police is that Chris went over to Justin's house and he told him if he talks, he'll kill him. That's not what happened. Chris and his friend happened to be over at Justin's house because the friend had a friendship with Justin's wife or whatever, and they were over there to see her. And, then Justin came home, and I'm sure because of the connection, I'm sure there were words exchanged about the case because they haven't seen each other in a long time. But that wasn't the cause of him going over there at all. Tommy went over there, not Chris.
Why?
We don't know what went down behind closed doors. It all sounds very fishy, that Chris is the only one with charges against him, and he gets charged with burglary. Not because he took anything, but because if you're at someone's house without permission, you can get charged with burglary. I think it's very fishy also that a headline came out in the paper saying, suspect in 2004 murder, as if, it just looks like they're trying to throw it on Chris once again. It feels like that. It really does.
Chris looks extremely guilty right now. Is there a world where Chris did do it?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean,
I just needed to hear you say it.
And he doesn't help himself.
Wait, so when did this actually happen?
I don't know. The article got posted yesterday, but from what I hear, it was a few days ago. I'm getting the affidavit now and figuring out when it happened and getting all the details.
Where is the case right now, besides this whole Chris mess?
That's it. Dennis told Chris's sister that all the evidence in the case points to Chris and that he wants to get this case solved before he's retired. And he said, all the evidence points to Chris, your family's trash, and yeah, that's what's going on.
Your family is trash?
He said that to her. I believe her.
Oh, Lord.
So.
No, yeah, I do too.
That's what's going on.
Okay.
But they don't blame us. The good news from that is even Chris and his sister don't blame. They know, they're calling us and trying to help. So okay. Get this right. The sister's trying to bail him out, and she's like, Chris keeps saying, and this is so Chris, my word is my bond. I don't need a lawyer. I've got my word. And I'm like, you really might want to get him a lawyer. And she said, I'm trying to get him a lawyer. We don't have any money. This is like the 5th job Chris has lost because these guys keep arresting him, you know. She said, now, he's not blameless in this. Chris does some really dumb stuff. You know, he's getting himself in trouble.
Now that Chris is in jail, it is even more vital that we find Rebecca's killer. I reached out to Casey at the beginning of my investigation, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet, even though he's the one person who's been officially ruled out as a suspect by the police. Now I want to find out if his alibi is as airtight as they claim it is. I still have hope. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and look, if he doesn't get back to us ever, maybe it will come to knocking on his door. But like, I still have some hope that he might get in touch with us. Everyone said how much he loved her and what a good guy he was.
There was that topics. Did you see that topics board about him? And it says, so I met this guy named Casey something, and he used to sing in a band. Anyone know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
And then everybody says, well, this one says, fairly decent guy. I think he works at Melbourne Sonic. He's really sweet. He's been done wrong by the past.
Yeah, it's definitely haunted him. It seems to have really haunted him, and now he seems to be happy and settled and everything. But it's also really crazy because you think about it and you're like, she should have all those things. She should have a husband and a baby, and you know, she should have the opportunity to be an aunt to her sister's kids and, you know, all those things. And like, she doesn't have any of those things now. But then eventually it's gonna be like, look, dude, like, you say you love this girl, you know, she was so important to you, and like, she got murdered brutally. You know something. And if he has nothing to hide, he should be willing to talk about it, because that was his friend and he loved her, and, you know, and he should want to find who did this.
Not only that, but I mean, his house was destroyed. I'd be pissed if somebody murdered somebody in my house.
So we go back to the timeline and what we know of September 20th, 2004. Casey told police that after Rebecca dropped him off at work in the morning, he was at work all day until his shift ended. Then he went to the movies and stayed out with his friends that whole night. But some people in town have heard a different story. Remember Alicia? She was the plumber's daughter. Her husband was the one who owned the Sonic, where both Casey and Rebecca worked.
She was staying like at his place, I think, when she would come up from school. But not, you know, it wasn't a full-time thing that she was there all the time. But, I mean, they were together quite a bit. They always worked together. I know on that particular day, it was weird. They said she had brought him to work and dropped him off that day. I don't know why. I think maybe because she was up from school that she wasn't working. I'm not sure. She wasn't off on break or something. But she had dropped him off at Sonic that morning. That was the last time that he saw her. As a matter of fact, they said that he left work, and I guess Rebecca wasn't supposed to be there. She was supposed to be leaving to go back to Fayetteville. And so he left work with a friend, and they actually went out to the movies and hung out that night. And he said he didn't return home, till really late, into the next morning, I think. They said he was there for the whole entire shift that day, and that he left work with that friend of his, and that they were supposed to go out to a movie or who knows.
What she's saying matches the story that was reported in the papers and what I've heard from others. Casey was at work all day and out with his friends all night.
He was really shook up, he seemed like it, after, they found Rebecca. But what I found odd was, he said that he went back to the house and that he couldn't tell anything had happened there, but that her stuff was still there and her belongings. And I just think that's not accurate, because, they said that you could physically tell if something happened. How could you go into your own home and not notice that something happened there, or to try to say that you don't notice that something happened? I don't understand that.
Do you think that your ex-husband could help us with the records of who was working at Sonic that day?
Yeah, probably.
All right, so Alicia unloads some new information I haven't heard before. She said that Casey may have stopped at home at some point before he went there with the police on Tuesday.
call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. Joey is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press...
Alicia's husband Joey isn't calling us back. Sometimes, people don't want to get involved because they're hiding something. Other times, especially in this case, it can be because they are scared. George has proven to be a valuable member of our team. He's the only one who was there at the time reporting on the murder and is emotionally and physically removed enough to give me some real answers. What do you think about Casey now?
I don't know. He talked to me several times initially after her body was found. And then I contacted his wife, his now wife, probably in 2016. I called her at work, and she's like, oh, because I wanted to talk to him, because I wanted to kind of update the case, and I wanted to dive into some more details, because like you said, it's been, at that time it had been 12 years. I mean, you're getting to the point where it doesn't matter if you're still interviewing people. This is a cold case. And you never know when one little thing will break in a case. One story runs, one rumor starts, and then all of a sudden everything changes. So I just wanted to talk to him. And so I called her, and she was really nice, very friendly. Gave me her phone number and his phone number, and I tried to contact him, and he would not talk to me. Well, then I tried to contact her, and she wouldn't contact me back. And she had told me, she goes, oh, he'd love to talk to you. But then I finally contacted her at work again, and I said, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you and Casey, and I haven't been able to get a hold of you guys. She goes, oh, well, he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't think it'll do him any good to talk to you. And I said, well, that may be true. I mean, I'm just a journalist, but I would like to talk to him. The story is, she went and dropped him off at work, and then she went to the Possum Trot convenience store, got a couple things, and then left, went back to his house, and then sometime during that morning, she died. Well, then he got off work, and then he went to stay the night at a friend's house, and then went straight to work the next day, so he never returned to his house to see the folded clothes and all this other stuff. Well, then I heard a separate story that he did go home the next morning to get some fresh clothes for work. And so I just, that's a kind of a big detail. It's a big detail. So I just wanted to know, and, he obviously didn't want to talk about it. And to this day, I have not spoke to him about it. I've tried to, but he just doesn't want to talk.
Turns out he's heard the same thing we heard, that at some point before the police arrived on Tuesday, Casey went home to change shirts. Even if her car was just still there, he still wouldn't have left, to go to a friend's house. Do you know what I mean? It never made sense to me that he...
And her purse was there.
Yeah, all stuff.
Everything was there. I mean, even if you wanted to assume, let's say her car was there. Let's say he comes home the next morning, sees her car there.
Exactly.
Maybe another friend came and picked her up, went and stayed the night, with another friend. Something happened. She was supposed to pick her sister up. Maybe the arrangement changed. She wouldn't have left her purse. In his defense, to this degree, we don't know for certain that he returned to the house. That it's just, again, a rumor.
When you talked to Casey, what did he seem like? Did he seem really emotional, upset?
He seemed really distant. You could tell that there was a shock factor with him. And I was actually at the sheriff's department when they brought him in for questioning one time, and the family was there. And I mean, there was fire in a lot of those people's eyes. And actually one of Rebecca's ex-boyfriends, Justin, he was there, and he started, just tears started coming down his face, and he was really angry, it looked like, just watching the police lead him into the sheriff's department.
Considering that we now know Rebecca and Justin saw each other just a week before her death, I can't imagine the tension inside that police station.
So when I talked to him, he seemed shocked. I talked to him maybe twice after that. And he just, very quiet, very soft-spoken. I suspect he probably knows some things, but, he won't talk to me, so I can't prove it. So
Might be scared.
He may be scared. That's a very viable possibility. Being like a Cub reporter at the time, I made some mistakes because he did talk to me after the fact. And I could have found these details out immediately. All I had to do was ask the questions, and guess what? Didn't ask questions. And so now I have to spin my wheels 14 years later to try to find the answers. Now, I think that Casey at one time may have been named as a suspect, quote unquote, but they cleared him pretty quickly. Now, Casey did tell me that they did interrogate him hard. I mean, he literally said that they just came at him. I mean, and they were very combative, telling him he knew it. They knew he had something to do with it. He knew something. So, but anyway, it would be nice if, they should have some suspects.
We'll be right back. Hey guys, this is Catherine, and I want to talk to you for a second about Ring. Ring video doorbells help you stay connected to your home from anywhere in the world. I love the fact that you can see whatever is going on at your house from wherever you are, and you can talk to them. So you can tell the delivery guy to drop the package, or scream at the shady-looking guy who shows up at 3 a.m. and tell him to get off your porch. In fact, I'm looking at getting Ring video doorbells and floodlight cams for my dad's house in Mountain View, because they would definitely come in handy on those dark Ozark nights as we investigate the case. As a Hell and Gone listener, you have a special offer on a Ring starter kit available right now. With a video doorbell and motion-activated floodlight cam, the starter kit has everything you need to start building a ring of security around your home. Just go to ring.com/hellandgone. That's ring.com/hellandgone. Until we can find someone else who knew Casey, Danielle will have to help us understand Casey and Rebecca's relationship, which seems more and more complicated the more we learn.
They, I think, went out for over a year. I mean, he was obsessed with her. He wrote music about her, poems. Every now and then he would freak out. He was kind of controlling. And on our way back to Mountain View, in the car, Rebecca had said, she had mentioned Casey, and she was like, hey, he wants to be my boyfriend, and, she didn't want that. So that was really strange that she'd said that. After all the years and just not getting anywhere, I don't know what to think.
Yeah. And you were saying his dad wouldn't let you search the land? Or he wouldn't let you
We
search
weren't
the land?
allowed to search the land, no.
Which seems really weird.
Right.
Because
that's where it happened.
Yeah. And they're really good. He's supposedly really good friends with her and loved her. So
right.
Why wouldn't he let you search?
Right.
We've heard that Casey's dad supposedly did not allow the land surrounding the crime scene to be searched. Was there no search warrant? And how much land are we talking here? Yeah, I feel like we got a lot to do. So I need the address for the Izard County assessor because I have no... Izard County assessor, let's see. So we drive to Melbourne to get the tax records to find out. We're trying to find out, and we might need to go to the clerk's office, but if we're trying to find out who owns a piece of land, where's it at? Well, that's the thing. We have the address.
I have it on my laptop.
And there have been two different addresses for it, so. Can you do it by coordinates?
Let me just see it.
You know what? I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So it would be like this area right here.
Can you zoom in? Does it have a house on it?
Yes.
So there should be an address there. Okay, so where from this is the property that you're looking for?
It's sort of behind it.
So the house is behind it?
The house is right by the road, and then it's like, there's some land behind it.
Okay, so it's just the raw land that you're asking about?
Yes.
Is who owns it? That's who owns the piece of, that's who owns the mobile too.
How far does that property line go?
He's got quite a bit of property there.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. Back at the car, we unroll the map from the assessor. So this is the house. That's the trailer house, right? So look, where's Highway 9? Anyway, just for my own interest, I'm like glad we saw that because he has a big ass piece of land back there. I'm just curious to see if there was a quicker way for Casey to cut through or anyone else to cut through. It's only about 4.5 miles in that cut through, and it's a really well-paved road. I found another back road. There's a dirt road that starts out right next to Sonic in Melbourne and comes out on Highway 58, just under a mile from Casey's house. I drive slowly down the dirt road, past several farms, and over a rickety wooden bridge. It's about 4.5 miles from the Sonic to Casey's house, about 10 minutes, and I didn't pass one single car on the road.
I kind of can't let go of the fact that Casey could have left work that day. And again, since we're trying to rule him out as a suspect, I just want to explore every possibility for how he could have gone between those two locations.
One of the questions we've been trying to answer was whether Rebecca's body was taken straight to the dump site or kept somewhere else and moved. So we take another look at the autopsy. Reading through the gory details of the kinds of insects that consumed Rebecca's body makes me feel, in a strange way, like I'm invading her privacy. But it's one of the only pieces of solid physical evidence that we have access to in this case. So we owe it to Rebecca to leave no stone unturned, even if the details are stomach-churning. This is Dr. Eric Merritt. He's a forensic entomologist.
Most of the time, and I'd say 99% of the time, it's a group called the blowflies, and these are the green and blue bottle flies that hang around your garbage can if there's rotting meat. These are the first flies to come to a body, whether it be a deer or a rabbit or anything that dies. If you put it out, say in the backyard, the first thing that come to them within minutes will be blowflies. So what happens is as soon as a person dies, they give off odors, okay? And generally, they come into the ears, eyes, nose, and mouth. That's their first area they come to and lay their eggs. So within 10 to 15 minutes after someone dies, and they'll come in and they'll lay their eggs within 12 to 24 hours of a dead body. And once they lay their eggs in, these maggots, what we call the eggs, hatch into maggots, or larvae we call them. And these things hatch from the eggs after 24 to 48 hours. And they go through a number of what we call stages or instars. Instar is a scientific term, but they hatch and they molt, and there'll be a bigger larva, and then they'll molt and there'll be a bigger larva. Mm-hmm. And so they grow at a constant rate based on temperature.
It was Arkansas Indian summer during the week Rebecca's body was in the woods. The temperature climbed to highs of around 85 degrees.
So what we do is when a person's found, like this body, I read your report, where she had maggots 1/16 to 1/2 inch. So the 1/2 inch would indicate that there's probably some late stage larvae that are ready to migrate away from the body and go into the soil and turn into what we call the resting stage or the pupa. And then eventually they'll come out as an adult. These are probably the third instars. They go through 3 instars, first, second, and third. And there's certain characteristics of the larva we can look at and determine what stage they're in. When I saw that half inch, that's about 12 to 14 millimeters. And that's about a third stage larvae. So and based on the normal development of a fly that I'm used to, that would be about a week old.
Dr. Merritt explains that while it's not an exact science, forensic entomology can be one of the best ways to determine time of death.
I've heard, like, for example, someone talking about this case, they said, oh, well, based on the maggots, they can get the time of death down to like 30 minutes. And from everything I know, that's not true.
If you can get the death down to within 30 minutes based on maggots, then you should be a suspect. But you can get better than anybody else, generally, by the medical examiner or by the detectives and stuff like that. And even the anthropologists, you can do better than they can. So if you have the maggots and you collect them and we can identify them, and we can do pretty darn close to when that person probably died, but not 30 minutes or anything like that.
Based on my drive through the back roads, I estimate that someone could have killed Rebecca and disposed of her body in under an hour. All of the evidence points to the fact that she was in the woods for a week, and that her body was put there within a few hours after her death, not kept somewhere else. We'll be right back. Hey guys, this is Catherine, and I want to talk to you for a second about Ring. Ring video doorbells help you stay connected to your home from anywhere in the world. I love the fact that you can see whatever is going on at your house from wherever you are, and you can talk to them. So you can tell the delivery guy to drop the package, or scream at the shady-looking guy who shows up at 3 a.m. and tell him to get off your porch. In fact, I'm looking at getting Ring video doorbells and floodlight cams for my dad's house in Mountain View, because they would definitely come in handy on those dark Ozark nights as we investigate the case. As a Hell and Gone listener, you have a special offer on a Ring starter kit available right now. With a video doorbell and motion-activated floodlight cam, the starter kit has everything you need to start building a ring of security around your home. Just go to ring.com/hellandgone. That's ring.com/hellandgone. During our investigation, we've learned a lot about Jennifer, Chris, JB, and Justin. But more than anyone else in this case, Casey is an enigma. By all accounts, he was distraught after Rebecca's death. He's the polar opposite of Justin, JB, and Chris, who come across as tough. Casey is the acoustic guitar strumming sensitive musician who wrote poems to his girlfriend. For several years after Rebecca's death, he traveled around the country working various jobs. A few years ago, he moved back to Melbourne. His new wife is attractive, young, and blonde, just like Rebecca. She worked at Sonic too. They got married, they had children. At least on the surface, Casey seemed to find love and live happily ever after, the happy ending that Rebecca never got. But what I can't understand is, when everyone else in town was searching for the girl he was madly in love with, Casey seemed to be MIA. Casey is the only person we've looked at so far who didn't help with the search. I tracked down Casey's friend Patrick at the store where he works. He's friendly and welcoming. When I tell him I'm there to talk about Casey and Rebecca's murder, he takes me into the back office.
Casey's one of my best friends. Yes, yeah, Casey, after the whole ordeal and everything, of course, he was still staying out there with the trailer, which he hated. I ended up talking to him, and we let him move in with me and my wife, and he stayed with us for, I don't even know how long, a long time. I still remember that entire day. I was actually in town getting, we had one of our little lug nut bolts on our tire break off. We had to get it fixed when we heard about it and everything. But I remember right after that, all that happened and everything else, I heard about it. I remember Casey and them saying that he had spent the night with Laren and them, because we used to have a huge group of Sonic people. Every Wednesday we'd go out to Laren's and have this Halo night where we'd bring TVs and Xboxes to play. But after I heard about it and everything else, of course Casey was distraught. And while he was, I guess, being interviewed and everything else, I went around town to the different gas stations and stuff, asking, saying, hey, do you have any cameras pointing towards the road, trying to verify his story, everything. And I guess the Possum Trot, or it used to be Possum Trot, had some cameras out there, which we informed the police about, and then I guess that's one of the cameras they found.
When you guys, when you went to Laren's, do you know what he was doing that night?
That I don't. So back then, which I don't know if it's changed now as far as like with Laren and them, that whole house is split, of course. But back then, they were big into marijuana and stuff like that, smoking marijuana, and that was their big thing. So I imagine if they got together, that's probably what they were doing that night. Which I guess they probably were, because I guess whenever Casey did the lie detector and tests and stuff like that, I guess there was some issues. If you smoke marijuana so far before you take one, they say you can mess up the tests or something.
I called a polygraph examiner and asked if marijuana can make you fail a lie detector test. He said, without a doubt, marijuana cannot make you pass or fail. What was their relationship like, his and Rebecca's?
As far as I know, good. I do know they had some issues as far as staying together, because I guess there were some other guys that was in a relationship before Casey, and so there would be breakups and stuff like that, to where she would go back with one of them. But As far as I know, there at the end, they were doing great. He was pretty distraught about it. I mean, like I said, for a long time when he lived with us, he was scared to even be at the house by himself, because he didn't know what or who happened to her, of course. Of course, we all had our suspicions about some certain individuals out in Mountain View and everything. But like I said, he did, of course, like, what if they come after me? What if they after me? Things like that. So he was always paranoid. I remember the first couple of nights and stuff, or the first couple of weeks that he actually stayed with us, he wouldn't go in the trailer. If we were gone, like come to base with something, we come back, I would go into the trailer, check everything, make sure, no one's hiding out in there.
What happened to the trailer ever? Is it still there?
Mm-hmm. He lives in it now.
Oh, he's back in it.
He didn't live there for, like I said, a couple of years at least. His dad still lived there. Then I guess his grandpa ended up going into like some type of nursing home or something. So his dad moved out of the trailer, moved into his grandpa's little place.
Just to clarify, Casey is living in the house that his girlfriend was murdered in.
Well, then Casey, I believe at the time, was actually, there's a cabin on the same property as down. He was staying living down there for a little while, and he ended up meeting his wife that he's with now, Hannah, and then after they started getting married and they found out they were gonna have a kid, they moved into the trailer, and that's where they've been living ever since.
What's sort of Casey's theory or your theory about who did it?
So, I'm not real good with names. I don't remember names. It's hard for me to remember them. But of course, there was one of my old bosses. What was her name? Female.
Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer. And there was one other, but I didn't know that individual. I guess it was, from what I understand, was her dealer at the time.
Sounds like Patrick is just regurgitating all the rumors. So what is Casey's theory?
I think about it, especially whenever I see stuff on Facebook about it and stuff like that. I remember about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It don't seem like it was that long. I saw the thing pop up on Facebook where they talked about how they had a lot more leads about, they heard some college students and stuff over at Ozarka College talking about them committing the crime and everything. So I was hoping, I was like, okay, well, great. It's finally going to get...
I was too. I was really, but...
And then it just died off, nothing.
Yeah, I'd heard, and everyone's related, and it's just it's difficult to untangle.
I've never once thought Casey.
Right.
Never once. Just because I've been friends with him so long. But almost seemed like the person had been at the house before because they knew where everything was at, cleaning supplies, things like that, using the washer. It just seems odd to me that someone would feel comfortable enough to stay there at the house and that much time.
Thank you very much. Here's my number, and if I'll think of anything, I really
yes, ma'am. I'm glad to hear that somebody's actually looking into it.
Yeah, I'm on. I'll connect with you on Facebook. I'm on Facebook too, and we do like updates and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
I met Casey when he was with Rebecca. I think we were at Tiffany's graduation in Fayetteville, and all my kids were there, and Casey came with Rebecca. And so I met him there. Other than that, I don't think I had met him.
What did you think
before? I don't remember because it was just
the graduation.
I was involved with Tiffany, but there were photographs, and I don't remember having an impression of him.
Rebecca's father didn't know Casey very well. They only met once.
I mean, and did you see him at all that week?
No. Not that I recall. But you have to remember that I didn't know some of these people. I would be introduced to some people, and then I could place them. But there were so many people out there that were helping that I was introduced to. And then, of course, we were, you have tunnel vision. You're just not looking at, hey, this person over here could be the killer. I'm pretty sure that Justin was there. And I think Justin was there with his new girlfriend who was pregnant. And I believe I got introduced to her. And aside from that, we just went off looking and searching. So nothing made any sense. But then everything's gray. I don't know. I know Casey got back in the trailer and things were unlocked. It was left in a state to where somebody could come in and out. But if these other state police guys came, they would have known enough to to, kind of set up a perimeter around it or something where people couldn't be there. And why they didn't, I don't know. It could be that it was because the jurisdiction is set up initially that it's the sheriff's department, and then at some point it gets turned over to the state police at the request of the sheriff's department, and that how much time went by until that happened could have been days.
According to multiple sources, Casey walked in and out of the crime scene. Former Izard County Sheriff Joe Martz talked to A.K. Barnes in 2016 about the crime scene. He was open about the fact that the local sheriff's office was overwhelmed. He said that investigators spent 13 hours inside the house bagging evidence, so many that he had to go to Miller's grocery store to get more paper bags and boxes to send to the state crime lab. He said that they took hundreds of items from the trailer and turned the case over to the Arkansas State Police. Larry has also heard the rumors that Casey went home at some point before returning to the crime scene on Tuesday with the police. I wonder where this rumor originated. I'm pretty sure Danielle told me her mom called the police. I'll have to look back at everything to make sure. But also there was a note that her mom had gotten a call from Casey that was alarming about the stuff being in the house. But she wasn't. Her stuff was there, but she wasn't. So I guess I'm just wondering, was that while the police were there? Or could that have been, if that was before the police got there, then that means that he went home before the police got there. And that would conflict with the story he told the police, where he said he wasn't there.
I heard the two stories, that he went home and actually went into the trailer before anybody knew anything. And I don't know, if you can't talk to him, you can't pin it down now.
He told...
He called either Danielle or her mother, and
he also told a couple people at Sonic.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working on now. Because as soon as we can get someone saying, as soon as we have someone nailing down saying that he said that, I mean, the reason in my opinion, he was written off as a suspect so early is because of the alibi. He supposedly had this alibi and he was gone the whole night and multiple witnesses and all this. So if we can show that there's a hole in that, then, I mean, there's something weird about his story.
There's something.
No matter what,
yeah,
there's something wrong with his story. So.
Yeah, and even the various descriptions of what the trailer was like. I have something in writing that one of the officers that came in later said the thing was just, what was his expression? Not disheveled, it was, can't think of the term, but it was a mess. And then you have others that said, well, I didn't notice anything. So I can't believe that Casey could have gone there and have Rebecca's car there, purse there. Obviously, some other things were there that we know now, and he didn't know that something was wrong. And then all the other things that you know about, just doesn't make any sense. Casey shut down. And Casey, to me, still has to be one of the primary suspects. And the fact that he won't come forward and spend time really talking to people and going through things and showing his innocence and answering questions. A lot of the answers that I've seen in written form, answers that I've seen in just responses he's given other people conflict.
According to Larry, the events after Rebecca went missing are a blur. Remember, George Jared described him taping up Rebecca's missing poster over road signs on the highway. It's obvious that he was devastated by Rebecca's death. Both Patrick and George mentioned the fact that Casey was distraught after Rebecca's murder. And we know that trauma can make people behave irrationally. But we now know that Justin, Jennifer, Chris, and JB were all around. All of them searched for Rebecca. All of them except Casey. Now it's just becoming a glowing red flag. Every single person, Chris and these guys have so much to lose if they say the wrong thing, and they're still cooperating, right? All these guys. The one that's not is Casey. We did get to one of Casey's friends, but I really think it's the Sonic people who hold the key to if or when or how Casey may have gone home on Monday. Nobody seems to know shit about Casey, who's in this friend group, by the way. They didn't even really know Rebecca was dating him. And he's like, I didn't know that guy. I think I met him once. And Chris is like,
I didn't know where I didn't even know where that place was. I'd never been there, told the police I'd never been there. And that's like a bold statement. He's like, take my DNA because I've never been there. None of these people went to that cabin.
Not only that, but they just don't look like people that would mesh at all. Because we were kind of talking about it. Casey's like, he's in a band. He was a little bit more...
He was a hipstery dude, you know, like smoked pot, went to Laren's house to smoke pot, like played in a band, like you said.
Yeah, pot was the drug of choice rather than meth. And like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, well, yeah.
Casey definitely, they just didn't mix. They just didn't. They were in different cities, different groups of people. This whole rumor that they were all partying at that house just never happened. That never happened.
As far as I know, Casey's not even real.
Right. Yeah, he could just be a fake Facebook account. You know, like, you're right. There's it's like a ghost town.
Then all of a sudden, our ghost appears. Casey sends me a Facebook message. He tells me he doesn't want to talk and that he has a family he needs to protect. He declines to speak with me and makes it clear that the only people he will speak with moving forward are the police. It looks like if we're going to find out more about Casey, it's not going to be from him.
Oh yeah, no, listen, it would, because we've heard some of these names, I'm sure, in some rumors, but if the person who actually heard people talking about it is, that's really valuable. And I mean, no, listen, I really, really appreciate it. I mean, I wonder, did Casey have any theories about who did it over the years? Yeah, because that has actually been one of the things that struck us about it, that that place is so remote, you know what I mean? It's like, who'd be able to know that it was there? That's been kind of from the beginning, you know? All right, thank you so much. All right, thanks. Bye. Okay, that was extremely interesting. This is Casey's best friend. Interesting for reasons other than, it's not like, oh, he thinks he did it. No, it's, this is his best friend. He basically lived in that house at the time. Lived in that trailer, he was there all the time. I wanted to ask him way more questions, but he was kind of had to go. And anyway, basically he works around town. He has a coworker who this guy said he heard the other day about the case getting reopened. So that's obviously through our stuff. And he was talking about it with a coworker, and the coworker sort of said that he heard at a party that it was a group of people who did it and was given details and things. But interestingly, he was out of town for like 3 days during the murder. He was working on a tugboat, I think he said. But when he got back, he said Casey was staying with his sister. And he also said that Casey cried in his arms about it and, was just all upset, right? But he said, it really got to me. That cabin's so remote. Nobody knows where the hell that place is. He was literally saying that. And he goes, I straight out asked him, did you do it? He said, friend of friend, did you do it? And then he kind of went off and he goes, of course, he was at work, so blah, blah. He just kind of went off. But I'm thinking like you can feel the wheels turning. He said they were still really close, but because Casey had a girlfriend. See, and everyone in Casey's life refers to Rebecca as the girlfriend. But everyone in Rebecca's life refers to Casey just like some random guy who's around. And he's like, well, no, he's like, it was just really painful. And I'm sorry, if your girlfriend got fucking murdered in your house, you're going to solve it. You're going to be like us times 100 on steroids. You're going to be like, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to find out who did this in my house. Who came into my house and killed my girlfriend? You're not going to be fired up. I mean, I get you go through a period of grief, but after a while, you notice everyone else we've spoken to, Chris, JB, everyone has theories, or at least an idea of what, or even if they don't know, they sit there and say, I've thought about it for countless hours. It's haunted me. And yet, this is Casey's best friend saying, well, no, I kind of waited for him to bring it up. No, he didn't really have any theory. You're going to tell me, I mean, if it were me and it was my boyfriend, I would have a murder board in my house, and I would probably I'd be like the guy in The Vanishing, you know, who took a hotel room and put red strings everywhere. I do think that there are people who feature in this tale who may have at one point bragged about it or may have known people, because they were either because they're trying to look hard and tough. I could even see Jennifer, even though even if she had nothing to do with it, she's got this hard bitch image. Do you know what I mean? So I can see her playing. I don't see a downside to kind of. I see why. I see why that would happen. I'm not saying it did, but I'm just saying when he told me he asked his friend, and then he on his own brought up the remoteness of that location. Of course, he was at work is not really what you want to hear. You want to hear there's no way my friend could have done that. You know, he doesn't have it, and he never would have hurt anybody. Not while he was at work. Oh, Catherine. Here's the other thing that really bothers me about this whole investigation, has since the start. In part of your victimology profile, you're supposed to interview the people closest to the victim. And I don't know if the police talked to Danielle and by the way, she's a trauma victim. So at the time, it should have been done in a way like a very sensitive, you got to be really careful with trauma victims. And this is the person that knew her best, okay? And I'm just not sure that I don't think they ever got anything about the temper or, any of these things about Casey. I don't even know if I don't know if they questioned her. I don't know. I'm Catherine Townsend, and this is Hell and Gone. Hell and Gone is a joint production between How Stuff Works and School of Humans. It is written and recorded by me, Catherine Townsend. Taylor Church is our producer and story editor. Audio editing and design by Jonathan Sleep. Mix engineer, Glenn Matullo. Audio mixing and love by Tune Welders. Executive producers Brandon Barr and Elsie Crowley for School of Humans, and Connell Byrne and Chuck Bryant for How Stuff Works. Our field producer is James Morrison. Our researcher is Sandy Klosterman. Theme and original score by Ben Soli. Available wherever you get your music. To dig into the investigation, please visit hellandgonepodcast.com or follow us on social media.
If you haven't checked out my new series, The End of the World with Josh Clark, then now's a great time to start. The holidays are over, the doldrums of winter have begun, and there's no better time to explore existential dread than right now. But wait, there's more to The End of the World than that. Yes, the series is about existential risks, but it's also about hope. The threats that are coming our way that could wipe humans right out of existence could also be just the thing that makes us band together in a way that humanity never has before. In The End of the World, I take you on a journey across time and space. From the moment an asteroid collided with Earth and set off a chain of events that wiped out the dinosaurs, to the post-biological future where we live in a digital format, if we don't already. We'll explore big questions, like whether we're alone in the universe, and exactly how artificial intelligence could take control of our world from us. It also has a beautiful score and cinematic sound design, so it's an adventure for your mind, which is just the thing to snap you out of the winter blahs. All 10 episodes of The End of the World with Josh Clark are available for you to binge now on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get podcasts.